She rescued black triplets from the trash, not knowing their father was a billionaire in coma. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is a private hospital. You and those children have no business being here, especially not in Mr. Crawford's wing. These babies are Robert Crawford's children, and I have DNA tests to prove it. Now either you let us in, or I'll have security escort you out." The hospital administrator's face paled as she stared at Alina Jenkins, a 62-year-old retired nurse with silver hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. Alina stood firm, 3 identical 6-month-old babies secured in a triple stroller before her. The silence in the private hospital corridor stretched uncomfortably as staff and visitors turned to stare. The administrator's eyes darted from Alina to the triplets, 3 beautiful black babies with identical chubby cheeks and curious eyes. Her gaze then shifted to the document Alina held out, lab results confirming paternity. "This is impossible," the administrator whispered. "Mr. Crawford has been in a coma for over a year. His family doesn't know everything about him, clearly," Alina said, her voice steady but her heart pounding. "Now are you going to let these children see their father, or do I need to call my lawyer? I've already spoken with hospital administration." The administrator's phone rang. She answered it, listened for a moment, then looked at Alina with new respect and fear. "Yes, sir, right away." She hung up. "The hospital director is coming down personally to escort you to Mr. Crawford's suite." Alina nodded, relieved but still tense. She had rehearsed this moment for days, but standing her ground against the formidable gatekeepers of Robert Crawford's world was still intimidating, even for someone with her backbone. But let's go back to how this all started. It was just 3 hours earlier when Alina had received the DNA results that would change everything. Alina had been enjoying her usual Sunday morning routine in her modest home in Oakwood Heights, a middle-class neighborhood that had seen better days. The April sun streamed through her kitchen window as she sipped her coffee, jazz from her old record player Ella Fitzgerald, her favorite since 1965, filling the room with warmth. The triplets were still asleep in the nursery she'd set up in what was once her sewing room. 6 months ago, she couldn't have imagined her quiet retirement would transform into this beautiful chaos of baby bottles, diaper changes, and midnight feedings. But then again, she couldn't have imagined finding 3 newborn babies abandoned in a garbage bin behind the community center where she volunteered either. The Crawford family will eat you alive. They have armies of lawyers, security, they're practically royalty in this city. These boys have a right to know their father, Alina said firmly. And Robert Crawford has a right to know his sons exist, coma or not. But you don't have legal standing. You're just their foster mother, temporary guardian. For now, Alina agreed. But if he's their father, that changes things. She looked at the clock. "I need to get the boys ready. Will you help me?" Marlene sighed, knowing that tone in her friend's voice. Alina Jenkins might look like a sweet grandmother, but she had a spine of steel. "You know I will, but Alina, be careful. Powerful people don't like surprises." By 9:30 a.m., the triplets were fed, changed, and dressed in matching blue outfits, the ones Alina saved for doctor appointments and special occasions. They sat contentedly in their triple stroller, David playing with a teething ring, Daniel babbling happily, and Deacon watching everything with his unusually serious eyes. "You sure about this?" Marlene asked as Alina gathered the diaper bag. "No," Alina admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." She hesitated. "I didn't tell you everything, Marlene. There's something else." She pulled out her phone, showing her friend a news article from 14 months ago, just before Crawford's accident. The headline read, "CRAWFORD Enterprises accused of destroying historic black neighborhood for luxury development." "The community center where I found the boys, it's in this neighborhood, Riverwood. Crawford's company had been buying up properties there for years, planning to demolish them for luxury condos. There were protests, community meetings. He wasn't popular with the locals." Marlene's eyes widened. "You think there's a connection? That's someone from the neighborhood?" Alina shrugged. "I don't know, but it seems like too big a coincidence." "All the more reason to be careful," Marlene warned. "This isn't just about a rich man's secret babies anymore. This could be about revenge, politics, God knows what else." "Which is exactly why these boys deserve the truth," Alina said, checking that she had everything: diaper bag, bottles, the DNA results, and most importantly, her courage. "They're innocent in all this. They deserve to know where they come from, good or bad." Marlene nodded reluctantly. "I'll drive you." The ride to Chicago Memorial Hospital's private wing was tense. Alina rehearsed what she would say, how she would handle the inevitable resistance. As a nurse who had worked there for decades before retiring, she knew the layout well, knew which administrators might be sympathetic, which security guards might remember her. "What if they don't let you in?" Marlene asked as they pulled into the parking garage. "They will," Elinor said with more confidence than she felt. "And if they don't, I'll go to the press. I doubt the Crawford family wants that kind of publicity." Marlene parked, then turned to her friend. "I'll wait here with the car. Call me if you need backup." Elinor nodded, grateful. She unloaded the triple stroller, a feat she'd perfected over the months, secured the 3 boys, and headed for the hospital entrance, DNA results tucked safely in the diaper bag. She knew the private wing had its own entrance, separate from the main hospital, designed for wealthy patients who valued privacy above all else. As she approached, she straightened her posture, lifted her chin, and pushed the stroller through the automatic doors with purpose. The reception area was all marble and soft lighting, more like a luxury hotel than a hospital. The woman at the desk, young, perfectly coiffed, with an expensive-looking suit, looked up with a professional smile that quickly faltered at the sight of Elinor and 3 black babies. "Can I help you?" she asked, the question clearly meaning you must be lost. Elinor stepped forward. "I'm here to see Robert Crawford." The receptionist's smile became stiff. "I'm sorry, Mr. Crawford is only receiving family visitors. If you could tell me your business." "These are his children," Elinor said simply, gesturing to the triplets. "I have DNA results confirming it." The young woman's eyes widened. She picked up her phone, pressed a button, and spoke in a low, urgent voice. Within minutes, the hospital administrator arrived, a severe-looking woman in her 50s whom Elinor vaguely recognized from her nursing days. Which brings us back to where we started, with Elinor standing her ground in that pristine hallway, the administrator's phone call changing everything. The hospital director arrived 5 minutes later, flanked by security personnel who looked more like Secret Service agents than hospital staff. He was a tall man with salt and pepper hair and the harried expression of someone whose day had just become immeasurably more complicated. "Mrs. Jenkins," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Dr. Harrington. We've met before, I believe, before your retirement." Elinor nodded, surprised he remembered her. "Yes, doctor. I understand you have documentation regarding these children and Mr. Crawford?" Elinor handed him the DNA results. He studied them carefully, then looked at the 3 babies who were beginning to fuss in their stroller. "This is highly irregular," he said finally. "The Crawford family has strict instructions about visitors." "I'm not asking to see the family," Elinor said. "Just Robert. These boys deserve to at least be in the presence of their father once, even if he can't acknowledge them." Dr. Harrington seemed to be weighing his options. Finally, he nodded. "I'll take you to him myself, but I should warn you his brother Marcus is with him now. He won't be pleased." Elinor steeled herself. Marcus Crawford had featured prominently in news coverage. The younger brother, hungry for control of the Crawford empire, fighting with his sister Vanessa and older brother James over who would make decisions while Robert was incapacitated. "I'm prepared for that," Elinor said, though her dry mouth suggested otherwise. They took a private elevator to the top floor of the hospital. As they rose, Dr. Harrington spoke quietly. "Whatever happens in there, Mrs. Jenkins, remember that my primary concern is my patient's well-being. If this causes any disturbance to Mr. Crawford's condition." "I was a nurse for 30 years, Elinor reminded him gently. "I understand." The elevator doors opened onto a hushed corridor with only 2 doors, the kind of exclusivity that billions could buy. Dr. Harrington led them to the second door and knocked softly before entering. The room beyond was spacious and bright, more like a luxury apartment than a hospital room. Medical equipment had been disguised within elegant cabinetry, and fresh flowers adorned every surface. In a specialized bed by the window lay a man Elinor recognized from countless news photographs and television reports. Robert Crawford was in his early 50s, but looked older now, his athletic frame diminished by a year of immobility. Still, his handsome features were unmistakable, and Elinor felt a jolt of recognition as she looked from his face to the triplets. The resemblance was obvious now that she knew to look for it, the same high cheekbones, the same shaped eyes, even similar hairlines. Beside the bed sat a younger man in an impeccably tailored suit, who rose as they entered, his expression shifting from surprise to outrage. "What is this?" Marcus Crawford demanded. "Who are these people?" Dr. Harrington stepped forward. "Mr. Crawford, this is Mrs. Jenkins. She has some information regarding your brother that I believe warrants your attention." "Whatever it is can go through our lawyers," Marcus snapped. "This is a private room." Elinor moved the stroller forward, positioning it where Marcus couldn't miss the 3 babies inside. "These are your brother's sons," she said simply. I found them abandoned 6 months ago. DNA testing confirms Robert is their father. Marcus stared at the triplets, his expression unreadable. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the steady beep of Robert's heart monitor and Daniel's soft babbling. That's impossible, Marcus said finally, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. The tests are conclusive, Dr. Harrington said, handing Marcus the results. 99.9% paternity match. Marcus scanned the document, his brow furrowing deeper with each line. This is preposterous, some kind of scam. My brother has no children. None that you know of, Alina corrected gently, but these boys exist, they're his, and they were left in a dumpster the night your brother had his accident. At that, Marcus's head snapped up. What did you say? The timing lines up, Alina said. These babies were newborns when I found them on November 12th last year. Your brother's accident was earlier that same evening. Marcus sank back into his chair, still staring at the triplets. For the first time, Alina saw uncertainty in his eyes. Who's their mother? He asked. I don't know, Alina admitted. The police investigation found nothing. No hospital reported a woman giving birth to triplets around that time. Whoever she is, she didn't want to be found. Marcus stood abruptly. I need to make some calls. He pointed a warning finger at Alina. Don't go anywhere, and don't contact anyone else about this until I return. After he left, Dr. Harrington checked Robert's vitals, then excused himself as well, promising to be just outside if needed. Alina was finally alone with Robert Crawford and the triplets. She moved the stroller to the bedside and took Robert's hand gently in hers. Hello, Mr. Crawford, she said softly. I'm Alina, and these are your sons, David, Daniel, and Deacon. I've been taking care of them, but they should know their father. She lifted each baby in turn, holding them where Robert could see them if he were somehow aware inside his unresponsive body. She described each of their personalities, David's determination, Daniel's joyfulness, Deacon's thoughtfulness. They're amazing little boys, she told him. You should be proud. I don't know what happened with their mother or why they were abandoned, but they're survivors, just like you. As she settled Deacon back in the stroller, she noticed Robert's hand twitched slightly. Heart racing, she pressed the call button for the nurse. Within moments, Dr. Harrington rushed back in, followed by a nurse. What happened? He demanded. His hand moved when I was talking about the babies, Alina said. Dr. Harrington checked the monitors, then performed a quick neurological assessment. There's some increased brain activity, he said, sounding surprised. It could be coincidence, but... He looked at Alina. Keep talking to him. Alina continued, telling Robert about finding the babies, about her decision to foster them, about their first smiles and laughs. As she spoke, the monitors showed subtle changes, and twice more Robert's fingers twitched. This is remarkable, Dr. Harrington murmured. We haven't seen this level of response in months. Before Alina could reply, the door burst open, and a striking woman in her 40s entered, radiating authority. Her resemblance to Robert was unmistakable. This had to be Vanessa Crawford, his sister and chief rival to Marcus for control of the family business. What's going on here? She demanded. Marcus is making insane claims about babies. Then she saw the triplets and stopped short. Oh my God. Ms. Crawford, Dr. Harrington began, we're seeing some unusual response from your brother. His neural activity has increased significantly in the last few minutes. Vanessa barely seemed to hear him, moving closer to the triplets with an expression of wonder and confusion. They look just like Robert did as a baby, she whispered. She turned to Alina. Who are you? Where did they come from? Alina explained again the discovery in the dumpster, the DNA test, the connection to the night of Robert's accident. As she spoke, Vanessa's expression shifted from suspicion to something more complex. The timing, Vanessa said, almost to herself. The neighborhood. It all connects to Aisha. Aisha? Alina asked. Vanessa nodded slowly. Aisha Williams. She was leading the community opposition to Robert's development project in Riverwood. They had been fighting for months, but then, she paused. About 2 months before his accident, the protests stopped. Aisha disappeared from public view. Robert became distracted, secretive. We all assumed he'd won her over somehow, paid her off. Or they became involved, Alina suggested quietly. Robert. With a community activist fighting against his project, Vanessa looked skeptical, then thoughtful. Though it would explain a lot about his behavior, he started talking about redesigning the development, adding affordable housing, community spaces. Marcus and the board were furious. The pieces were starting to fit together in Alina's mind. If they had a relationship and she became pregnant. And then something went wrong, Vanessa finished. The night of his accident, Robert called me. He sounded strange, said he was going to change everything, make things right. I assumed he was talking about the business, but maybe. Do you know where Aisha is now? Alina asked. Vanessa shook her head. No one's seen her since last year. Some people thought she'd moved away, others. She didn't finish the thought. The door opened again, and Marcus returned, now accompanied by a stern-looking man carrying a briefcase who was introduced as the family lawyer. The atmosphere immediately tensed. Mrs. Jenkins, the lawyer began without preamble, the Crawford family is prepared to make you a generous offer for your silence in this matter. These children, if they are indeed related to Mr. Crawford, would be better served by the resources and opportunities the family can provide. They're trying to buy the babies, Alina said, incredulous, as if they're property. We're offering to ensure their future, Marcus corrected smoothly. A trust fund, the best education, every advantage. You've done an admirable job caring for them, but surely you can see that 3 infants are too much for a woman of your age. Alina felt her temper rising. These boys are not for sale, and they're not bargaining chips in your family power struggle either. Be reasonable, the lawyer urged. You're a foster parent. You have no legal claim to them if the Crawford family petitions for custody as blood relatives with their resources. Stop it, all of you, Vanessa interrupted. She had moved to Robert's bedside and was staring at the monitors. Look at this. They all turned to see the neural activity displays showing significant spikes. He can hear us, Vanessa said. He's responding. Dr. Harrington moved quickly to check the readings. Ms. Crawford is right. This is the most activity we've seen since the accident. It started when Mrs. Jenkins brought in the children. Marcus looked torn between skepticism and hope. You're saying these babies are somehow waking him up? I'm saying there's a notable correlation between their presence and his increased neural activity, Dr. Harrington replied cautiously. It would be premature to draw conclusions, but it's significant. Vanessa made a sudden decision. Mrs. Jenkins stays with the children, no legal threats, no buyouts. She fixed her brother with a steely gaze. Robert is responding to them, Marcus. For the first time in a year, there's hope. Don't you dare interfere with that. Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, but glanced at the monitors again and remained silent. We should continue to observe this situation, Dr. Harrington suggested. Mrs. Jenkins, would you be willing to bring the children for regular visits, under controlled conditions, of course? Alina nodded. Of course, whatever might help. And so began a new chapter. Over the next weeks, Alina brought the triplets to visit Robert every other day. Each visit showed small but consistent improvements in his condition, increased brain activity, more frequent hand movements, and eventually eye movements. By the 4th week, Robert opened his eyes while Daniel was babbling happily beside him. By the 6th week, he could track the movements of the babies with his gaze. Specialists were called in, therapies intensified, and hope, cautious but real, began to grow. During this time, Alina got to know Vanessa Crawford better. Unlike Marcus, who remained suspicious and distant, Vanessa embraced the triplets as family, helping Alina with them during visits and sharing stories of Robert's life. He would have loved these boys, she told Alina one afternoon as they watched Robert responding to a physical therapy session. For all his business ruthlessness, Robert always wanted children. What about their mother? Alina asked. Have you found any trace of Aisha? Vanessa shook her head. The private investigators haven't found anything. It's like she vanished. Her family won't talk to us. They blame Robert for destroying their neighborhood. If she abandoned her babies right after birth, Alina said hesitantly, she must have been desperate or afraid. Or both, Vanessa agreed. Whatever happened between her and Robert that night, it ended with him driving off the road and her leaving their newborn children in a trash bag. The grim reality of that night hung between them. She might not even know he survived, Alina pointed out. If she thought he was dead, she might have been afraid of the family, Vanessa finished the thought. Of us, maybe she thought we'd take the babies from her. Would you have? Alina asked bluntly. Vanessa didn't answer immediately. A year ago, probably, we were different people then. Robert's accident changed us, some of us anyway. 3 months after Alina first brought the triplets to meet their father, a breakthrough came. During a visit when David was placed carefully beside him on the bed, Robert spoke his first word since the accident. Son, he whispered, his voice raspy from disuse. The room froze. The physical therapist called for Dr. Harrington, who rushed in, disbelief turning to amazement as Robert repeated the word, his hand weakly moving toward the baby. From that point, Robert's recovery accelerated. Speech therapy, physical therapy, cognitive assessments, all showed remarkable improvements. Within another month, he could sit up with assistance and speak in short sentences. His memory was patchy, but his personality began to re-emerge intelligent, determined, and surprisingly gentle with the babies who had somehow reached through his coma. It was during this period of rapid improvement that Alina finally asked the question that had been haunting her. Robert, she said one afternoon when they were alone with the triplets. Do you remember Aisha Williams? His face changed, pain crossing his features. Aisha, he repeated. Is she? We don't know, Alina admitted. No one has seen her since the night of your accident, the night the triplets were born. Robert closed his eyes, struggling visibly with fragmented memories. We were in love, he said finally. Secret, complicated. She opposed my development project. We met at community meetings, argued, then something changed. She got pregnant, Alina prompted gently. Robert nodded. She was scared the community would see her as a traitor. My family would think it was a trap, a scheme. He paused, gathering strength. That night, we argued. She had just given birth at home with a midwife she trusted. I wanted to take them to a hospital, make everything public. She was afraid. What happened next? Alina asked. I left to get something from my car, Robert continued, his voice strained. My phone rang Marcus, angry about changes I'd made to the development plans. We argued. I was distracted, driving too fast. He shook his head. The accident, after that, nothing until the babies, hearing their voices. Alina absorbed this, heartbroken for everyone involved, Aisha, Robert, the triplets, even herself. The tragedy of misunderstanding and fear that had nearly cost so many lives. We need to find her, Alina said. She deserves to know you're alive, that her children are safe and loved. Robert nodded, determination settling on his face. Yes. Whatever happened that night, these boys need their mother too. The search for Aisha Williams intensified with Robert's involvement. He provided details about her friends, family connections, places she might have gone. The private investigators followed new leads, broadening their search beyond Chicago. Meanwhile, Robert continued his recovery, and a new legal battle began, this time over the triplets' future. Alina's position as foster mother was temporary by definition. With their biological father now awake and their paternity confirmed, the child welfare system leaned toward placing them with Robert. But Robert surprised everyone. I want Alina to remain in their lives, he told the social workers firmly. She saved them, loved them when no one else did, brought them to me. They need her as much as they need me. To the astonishment of his family, Robert proposed an unprecedented arrangement, co-parenting with Alina. He would provide financial support, a new home large enough for all of them near his rehabilitation facility, and ensure Alina had permanent legal standing as the triplets' guardian alongside himself. They're going to need a village, he told her privately. And you're the heart of that village. Alina, who had been preparing herself for the heartbreak of losing the boys she'd come to love as her own, was overwhelmed by his generosity. Are you sure? She asked. Your family won't approve. Robert smiled wryly. My family no longer makes my decisions. Nearly dying has a way of clarifying priorities. 4 months into Robert's recovery, with the triplets now approaching their first birthday, the breakthrough they'd been waiting for finally came. A tip from a community organizer in Detroit led investigators to a small apartment where a woman matching Aisha's description was living under a different name. The confrontation was handled delicately. Vanessa went first alone to explain the situation, Robert's survival, the triplets' rescue, their thriving under Alina's care, and Robert's remarkable recovery once reunited with his children. Aisha, once convinced that this wasn't some elaborate trap, broke down. She had fled that night believing Robert was dead, terrified his family would blame her and take the babies as the only heirs to the Crawford fortune. Overwhelmed, traumatized by the difficult birth, and believing she had nowhere to turn, she had made the desperate choice to leave the babies where they might be found quickly, then fled Chicago. I've lived with that decision every day since, she told Robert when they finally reunited in his hospital room. I thought I was giving them their best chance. I never imagined. You couldn't have known, Robert said, holding her hand as they both wept. We both made mistakes that night. Alina watched them from across the room, the triplets sleeping peacefully in their stroller, unaware of the momentous reunion taking place. Her heart was full but uncertain. Where did she fit now in this family that was healing, reuniting? Robert must have sensed her thoughts because he looked up and extended his other hand toward her. Alina, he said, come meet Aisha properly, the mother of our boys. The simple phrase brought tears to Alina's eyes as she moved forward to take his offered hand. Thank you, Aisha whispered, standing to embrace Alina. Thank you for saving them, for loving them when I couldn't. They're easy to love, Alina said simply. The path forward wasn't simple. There were legal complexities, family tensions, and the practical challenges of creating an unconventional family unit. Robert's recovery continued, though doctors warned he might never regain all of his previous abilities. The development project in Riverwood was completely redesigned with community input, spearheaded by Aisha herself once she returned to Chicago. Marcus eventually came around, especially after Robert made it clear that his business priorities had changed. Vanessa became an unexpected ally, fiercely protective of the new family arrangement and the triplets who had brought her brother back to life. On the triplets' first birthday, they gathered in the garden of the new home Robert had purchased, large enough for Alina to have her own suite, for Aisha to have space to work on her community advocacy projects, and for Robert to continue his rehabilitation. The boys were walking now, three identical little tornadoes delighting in their newfound mobility. As Alina watched Aisha helping David take tentative steps toward Robert, who waited with open arms and an encouraging smile, she felt Vanessa beside her. "You know," Vanessa said quietly, "a year ago we were all lost in different ways. Robert was trapped in his body. Aisha was hiding from her past. Those babies were abandoned, and you were alone in your retirement." Alina nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Now look at us," Vanessa continued. "The strangest, most wonderful family I could imagine, all because you heard crying from a dumpster and had the courage to look inside." "I was just doing what anyone would do," Alina demurred. "No," Robert said, wheeling himself over to them, a sleeping deacon in his lap. "You did what only you would do, Alina. You saw value and possibility where others might have seen only complications. You fought for these boys when no one else would." Aisha joined them, Daniel on her hip and David toddling alongside her, holding her finger. "You built the foundation of this family before any of us knew it could exist," she said softly. "These boys will grow up knowing that family isn't just about blood, it's about who shows up, who stays, who loves unconditionally." Alina looked around at this improbable gathering, the billionaire still recovering from his injuries, the community activist who had once been his fiercest opponent, the businesswoman who had discovered her capacity for tenderness, and the three beautiful boys who connected them all. "I was a nurse for 30 years, Alina said finally. "I thought when I retired that my days of helping bring life into the world were over. I never imagined that you'd become a mother again at 62. Robert finished with a smile. "That I'd become part of a miracle," Alina corrected gently. "Because that's what this is, isn't it? A miracle born from tragedy, a family created from strangers." As if understanding the gravity of the moment, all three boys looked up at the adults surrounding them, their identical faces breaking into matching smiles that held all the promise of the future. A future that none of them could have imagined a year earlier, yet now seemed like the only possible path forward together. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments.